right? See that? Ice, as far as you can see out there on Lake Michigan. So Chicago is still freaking cold. Richard here at Kelvin Wazoo with another video. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. And that is, I'm going to report on a sound comparison between two different pressings of an album that is often listed as a must-have in the genre of funk. And the album is Funkadelic, or excuse me, the band is Funkadelic. The album is Maggot Brain. And it is truly a remarkable album. The two pressings I am going to compare is this one, which is the Four Men with Beards pressing, which is universally, I would say, universally derided in the vinyl community as being a substandard pressing. I have heard it described as being awful, terrible, complete crap. And that those same descriptors are generally commonly used to describe Four Men with Beards pressings pretty much across the board. And then the other one is this newer pressing that is on the Westbound label, and it's a European pressing that came out in 2007, and so I will be, I gave this a listen as well. I should point out also that Patrick, the vinyl archivist, has suggested that most, if not all, the pressings are regardless of origin, are substandard, that the only one that you really want is an original pressing, and if you can't find one of those, that there is a CD release, some relatively recent CD release, and that's what you should get, and don't bother spending your money on these other pressings. Now, his opinion is valuable and very instructive and not to be dismissed. Having said that, everyone's ear and equipment is different, and different equipment is going to provide playback, on a different level. And then, of course, there's your own ear. Can you really hear the difference? Or are we just, buying into what others are saying? Again, I don't want to be dismissive of Patrick's or any other remarks. I do not have a CD copy of Maggot Brain, and I have looked them up in Discogs, and I have noticed that there are many recent CD releases of Maggot Brain, recent within the last 20 years, that indicate that they are remastered copies. But none of the vinyl pressings appear to have any indication that they are remastered vinyl pressings, just the CDs. So that's kind of interesting. So before I go, I think I need to point out to you the equipment that I am using in this sound test, because that's clearly a variable, not just my own ear and what I can discern in listening, but the equipment I am using. You know, everybody's equipment is different. So first, let's cover that. So to start off with, I have a Fluence turntable. It's entry level. It's the RT80, I believe. So not a very expensive turntable. And I use a Nagaoka cartridge. So that's the one upgrade that I made to my turntable, as I upgraded the quality of the cartridge. And then I had a cork mat. However, particularly when listening with headphones, rumble is still, an issue because of it's a metal platter, and even though it's belt drive, there's still, a bit of noise that's coming through. So eventually, someday I'll upgrade this. And then the amplifier that I use is this Denon. I've had this since the early 1990s. It's a very solid amplifier that I believe is a 85 watts output. And then my speakers are these Yamaha NSA 220s. Yeah, 140 watt speakers. They are three-way, okay? So we've got a woofer, mid-range, and a tweeter. And on the amplifier, I have a bass and treble control, no mid-range. All right, so that is the equipment that I am using in this test. Other equipment that I am using in this test, or used, I've already conducted the test, are my headphones, because in the sound comparison, I listened to the records with headphones, and then I listened to them with my speakers. And my headphones are nothing fancy. They are these AKG K240 Studio headphones. They're better than basic. They were, I think, around $80. But they are not noise canceling, and they are not super high-end headphones. And I do not have a, what do you call it, a headphone preamp or whatever. But that's, the equipment that I used. And so what I did is I listened to, and I'll show the record here. All right, so this is the European pressing that I was comparing to the Four Men with Beards. And it's on this very pretty peach vinyl with some marbling. And on the inner, or on the label, it says that, it's a Westbound Records. It's Cobalt music made in the EU. So, and I believe the original pressing is 1971 by Westbound Records. This one from the European Union is from 2007. The dead wax, I can't see anything that would indicate anything beyond you know, the catalog number that's in that is printed on the label, that is also in the dead wax. Other than it looks like it says the initials FT on side A, on side B. It looks like FT is on there also, but instead of on side A, it's FT, and then on side B, it's like FT. Like that, whatever that means in the, in the dead wax. And then we've got the For Men with Beards, which has the For Men with Beards, on the label. The dead wax has some more markings on it, with a different catalog number. Looks like S65844RE-1, and then some other information that's also on the dead wax at side A, side B, the same. I'm looking for the mastering mark, which looks like some kind of weird scribble. All right. Don't know enough about that type of thing to really speak on it, but just providing that information, regarding the pressing information. And all right, so primarily the comparison is based on side A, track 1, which is the the title track, Maggot Brain. It's 10 minutes and 10 seconds long, and an extraordinary guitar work. And listening in the headphones, what I noticed is something that was pretty common in other albums of that era. And that is particularly in the opening track. You've got the guitar, and the guitar for a good portion of the song is hard left, nothing in the right channel. There are other instruments, you can faintly hear, drums and bass in the right channel, but they also float a little bit into the left channel. But because the guitar is hard left channel, with headphones, I get this weird sensation in my right ear where it feels like there's like pressure, working against the ear, because there's this dead space in the right channel because the guitar is total left. And then the guitar parts, when there's the echo and reverb, coming in, that drifts into the right channel, then that weird pressure on my right ear disappears. All right, so it's only when everything is hard left, and then there's nothing really coming out of the right channel, and then that's where I get this, and that may be caused, because of the needle dragging in the groove, or, whatever. I've heard this on other recordings. For example, the stereo release of Piper at the Gates of Dawn and some of the songs, has that same phenomena, which is one of the reasons why I would like to get a mono release of Piper at the Gates of Dawn. I have a hard time listening to it with my headphones because when that dead space is happening in the right channel, I am not hearing it when it's coming out of the speakers. I mean, it doesn't have that level of discomfort on my ear. So that is present in both pressings. But I will say with this, the newer pressing that's on the peach vinyl, it's less, there's less discomfort. Also, the guitar playing, I don't know enough about guitars and amps, but it seems like the gain is like, I think it would be gain, is like really, really cranked up because there are these really, really quiet parts that, you know, in the guitar playing, but I'm getting a sense that they're not quiet because the volume was turned down. I think there's some other technical manipulation going on with the guitar amp so that everything is like cranked up to maximum level, but the playing is so delicate and light on the strings that the volume of the notes is not that high, but there's still a tremendous amount of energy coming out of that amp. And I don't know if it's because the gain is turned way up or, you know, whatever. Also, you hear these clicks, and the clicks are not, at first I kind of thought, are these distorted sounds that happen because of other crap going on in the studio? And no, it's because of, I think it's because the guitar player, you know, you can hear the clicks of a switch being flipped. Other noises that of, you know, from touching the guitar. So these clicks, which might sound like distorted sounds of static or something like that. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's because the guitar player has got the sound just pushed to the limit that you're hearing everything from fingers touching the guitar to taps and clicks of switches. You know, it's so these are not sounds because of a flawed recording. It could be flawed just simply because of the, you know, it was 1971 and things were rapidly improving, but they weren't improving it fast enough. So on both pressings, you hear that. But again, on the newer pressing, it is, I hear, the best way I can describe is there's more space between the notes. And there's also that, again, with that, no more feeling that pressure on my ear. I just feel like on the Four Men with Beards pressing, all the sound is like trapped in a bubble. But the newer pressing, the sounds are free and are able to, you know, rise out and spread in the ether, so to speak. So they're not quite contained or restricted, I guess might be a way to put it. So then I listened to both of the first track, both albums back to back. I would play the first track, first listening in headphones, then play the first track on the other album, listening through headphones. Then I played the first track, listening through the speakers, and on the Four Men with Beards, and then I played the first track with the other pressing, playing it through the speakers. sitting in my optimum position between the speakers so that I could get the the true stereo experience. And that hard left, at least the way I have my speakers configured, that hard left channel, it was still present, but because coming out through the speakers, it didn't have that. The closest I can explain this is I've been in caves by the ocean. And when waves are coming in through these crevices and then, retreating, and when the wave is coming in and then retreating, the air pressure inside the cave changes in a dramatic way, so much so that the air pressure against your eardrum, you can feel it. And sometimes you can even feel your eardrum trembling as the pressure is going back and forth from the onslaught of the waves crashing and then retreating out and coming in. That's kind of the sensation I'm getting, at least with the headphones, when that guitar is in hard left channel, and then it disappears when the sound is more floating in both channels, and then you get the perception that it's in the center as opposed to the hard side. So while the hard left is still there while I'm listening in the speakers, none of that confining pressure on the ear is there. But the same thing that I experienced with the headphones happens with the speakers, and that is there is in the newer pressing, the one that is not the Four Men with Beards, there's the sound, the music it's like it's freed. It's not being restricted inside a bubble, which is the sound I get from Four Men with Beards. Now, having said that, this newer one, this 2007 pressing of Maggot Brain, I find superior to the Four Men with Beards. I'm not going to go so far as to say that the Four Men with Beards is trash. It's clearly an inferior pressing, but if my equipment was even lower quality than what I have, and I think my equipment is probably moderately good in the overall. I mean, it's no high-end stuff, and I know a lot of people in the vinyl community have some really high-end equipment. I don't have that, but it's better than real basic equipment. And I think the equipment is matched well, because you can spend a lot of money on equipment and then it doesn't work together very well. And I think my equipment matches pretty well. But on that level, yeah, Four Men with Beards sounds a little muddled. I like the metaphor I was using, like the music is trapped in a bubble. So it feels too dense and restricted, whereas with the other release, that there is no bubble, the music is free to float. But unless you have super high-end equipment, the Four Men with Beards pressing, to me, is, I think most people would probably find it okay, and depending on their equipment, if they had a better pressing, would they necessarily notice the sonic improvement with the other pressing? I don't know. I have another Four Men with Beards pressing of Iggy Pop's The Idiot, and it sounds fine to me. So I do not have any other pressings to compare it to. I'll probably, keep a lookout for them and do that. And make a comparison there. So anyway, I don't know if this was helpful or, even entertaining. I haven't done a video like this, and this is already getting too long, I think. But that's my finding in terms of a sound comparison on these two pressings of Maggot Brain by Funkadelic. This is the newer 2007 one that's on the peach vinyl, and then it was compared with the Four Men with Beards pressing. And in my opinion, of these two different pressings, this is the superior pressing. It sounds better than the Four Men with Beards pressing. And if you've got at least mid-level to higher end equipment, I would suggest not buying the Four Men with Beards pressing. And as I mentioned, Patrick at the Vinyl Archivist says, you shouldn't get any pressings at all unless you can get an OG. So there are some really high quality CDs that are available to listen to. When I pick up one of those and I see one, I will pick one up and get it and listen to it and compare it to then the vinyl and see, if I prefer the CD release. But until then, that would be another sound test. This is what I have for today. And remember to pray for the people inside your head, for they won't be there when you're dead.